By 2016, adult ADHD rose by 123%. According to research, our attention span has decreased significantly in just 20 years. Just a couple of years ago, I had a bunch of social media apps. This is how my typical day used to go. Wake up, check notifications. Go to the washroom, check notifications. Have breakfast, check notifications. Feel a slight vibration in my pocket, check notifications. My existence was punctuated by me checking notifications. I recall that I got bored quite easily with activities. There was this one time I recall scrolling through my Facebook feed on my laptop while also checking my Facebook notifications on my cell phone. Yeah, that was weird. At this point, I started to develop an understanding that social media had more control on me than I wished to admit. Scrolling and checking notifications both released dopamine. It almost had a drug-like effect on me. A couple of months ago, I decided to pull the plug, disconnect from the social media matrix and start living in the real world. It wasn't easy making that decision. A ton of thoughts justifying my social media usage began to pop up. Oh, what about your friends on there? How are you going to keep up with them? Oh, what about some celebrity that you follow? How are you going to keep up with what's up with his life? The fear of missing out was bad. I had been contemplating quitting social media for months, but I just simply could not do it. Finally, a lot of introspection, I decided to uninstall all the social media apps from my phone. Snapchat, Instagram, Reddit, TikTok. And once I felt confident, I eventually deleted my profiles from all these apps. In this video, I'm going to talk about the areas of my life that improved massively ever since I quit social media. And how did I exactly manage to quit it? So let's get right into it. So back when I was hooked to social media, I remember sitting to study one day, prepping for my university exams and feeling this intense discomfort. Like I could simply not focus or sit still for more than 10 or 12 minutes at a time. I either found the material that I was studying too boring, or I found myself lost, thinking about things that had nothing to do with the material that I was studying. You see, when you're hooked to social media, you're in the habit of checking your notifications every few minutes. This actually rewired my brain to task switch a lot. Like your brain has this ability to rewire itself based on the stimulus that it is receiving. This is how you get good at things. For example, a person playing basketball for 300 days in a row will eventually get good at basketball. His brain is now primed for basketball due to receiving stimulus for 300 days. Similarly, checking my social media notifications for every few minutes for years and years had rewired my brain and shortened my attention span. I had what people would call a TikTok brain. The problem with social media doesn't just stop there. Another reason why I found what I was studying boring was because I had been watching highly stimulating content on social media. I had been watching highlights of football games, people doing spectacular things, clips of arguments between internet personalities. All of this releases a massive amount of dopamine into your system. And after a while, it desensitizes you. Like regular things become boring. They pale in comparison to the stimulation that social media offers. Just a couple of months after quitting social media and not viewing any form of short content, I can now do a study session that lasts multiple hours. Things that I previously considered boring, such as reading a book or going for a run, now they seem far more interesting. This was the very first benefit, the return of my attention span and my joy for life. Back in the days before the advent of social media, you were exposed to individuals that were just in your vicinity. You knew the guys from work, you knew the guys from your local gym, and perhaps a few other places that you frequently visited. Fast forward to 2023, you are now exposed to the entire world due to social media. Human beings subconsciously compare themselves with those around them. In the past, we subconsciously compare ourselves with other average individuals. But now you are subconsciously comparing yourself with the best of the best from every corner of the world. Let's say you're a kid who has been going to the gym for a year and has a fairly good physique until you get on social media and start browsing and seeing guys who are pumping themselves full of steroids, have been training for 10 plus years and pretty much have made their careers doing what they do. Now all of a sudden that kid is going to feel that he is far behind everyone else and his self-image is going to be damaged. This is exactly what I felt when I was browsing apps like LinkedIn, seeing all these posts about people talking about their latest and greatest accomplishments, or seeing some 14-year-old kid on Instagram who could now outlift me. Even though I had a pretty decent job as a software engineer and I had a good physique and I was quite athletic, I still felt that I was miles behind the world. I was just not good enough and this gave me anxiety. No matter how hard I worked and how much I accomplished, there was always someone who made me feel that my accomplishments were just insignificant. I remember reading this chapter from this book called 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson, and the chapter was titled Compare Yourself to Who You Were Yesterday and Not Who Someone Else Is Today. This is what social media does to you. It makes you compare yourself to the entire world. People on vastly different playing fields as you. Quitting social media rebuilt my self-image as a man. I was now actually content with how far I had come and where I was going. I was now able to pat myself on the back, and for once I was able to say, good job. So how exactly was I able to beat this crippling social media addiction that had essentially destroyed my attention span and ruined my mental health? As soon as I uninstalled the apps, I realized that now I had a void in my life. Those 2 to 3 hours in a day that were filled with checking notifications and browsing are now just empty. You will realize that it is much harder to resist the urge of social media when you don't have a routine, when you have just blocks and blocks of free time. So the first thing that I did was set a routine. I had activities planned throughout the day. I knew what I was supposed to do and when I was supposed to do it. Like wake up, hit the gym for an hour, come back home, study for X amount, then go for a morning walk, then perhaps call a friend or write in my journal. Every moment of my day was now accounted for, and my brain had very little time to crave social media. Besides, I was now getting all this good, healthy dopamine from other healthier activities, and I did not really miss social media. I realized that most addictions, social media, fast food, or pornography, are typically just filling a void in your life. If you find other things that will fill that void and keep doing them consistently, then over a period of time, you will not crave those things that you were previously addicted to. Most people are not addicted to behaviors that are hard to perform. Think about what I just said. Most people are not addicted to behaviors that are hard to perform. This is because you're designed to pursue a path of least resistance. If you have a very rewarding activity, such as browsing social media, then you need to add more resistance to that path. You need to make that activity extremely difficult to perform. When I had simply just uninstalled the social media apps, I still found myself tempted to the idea of browsing them. But when I deleted my accounts from these apps, now the idea of just browsing seemed like too much of a chore, because I would then have to recreate the accounts from scratch, and this resistance was enough for me to not want to perform that behavior. So in short, having a routine and making social media very difficult to access allowed me to beat this addiction. Bad habits typically come in groups. If you are someone who suffers from social media addiction, that means that you are also someone who enjoys instant gratification and are prone to indulging in other forms of instant gratification. Chances are that you are also addicted to consuming pornography and fast food. You absolutely need to address these other forms of instant gratification parallelly, else you'll just be substituting one form of addiction with the other. So make sure you check out this video and remove instant gratification from your life once and for all.